Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Guillermo Di Fondino. I'm a solutions architect working at AWS on financial services. And I'm glad to be here today with my co-speaker, Pierre-Benoît Querton, product owner at Pictet Asset Management. To these presentations, we are going to walk you through our joint journey, building a production-ready generative AI platform, lessons learned, but Pierre-Benoît will talk about this more later on. At AWS, we are working with thousands of customers to help them reimage and innovate with their business using generative AI. And there are now multiple learnings that we apply to our own products when built with generative AI, and learnings that we pass on into our customers and others to help them innovate quickly. There are key considerations that and recommendations and best practices when building generative AI, but they can be broken down into three main different areas. The importance to move quickly, customization, and scale. We will deep dive into these three main topics in the next minutes. Executives across all wide array of industries have numerous questions when building with generative AI. There are like two that continue arising. The first one, how can I use generative AI to drive value into my business? And how can I get my organization to move quickly? These are very valid questions, and we normally focus into three different areas. First, you need to find the right use cases that are relevant, that are powerful, and they are viable. They can be internal use cases to generate efficiencies and to create excitement with generative AI. They can also be external use cases to reimage how you interact with your customers, as an example. But what is really, really important is to involve the right stakeholders at an early stage. Builders, business analysts, decision makers, security, compliance, and have a clear roadmap on your generative AI journey. Data as a differentiator. You want to build your applications that fit your needs. And it's very important to have the right foundations. The exciting part of generative AI is the ease of use. It's not traditionally with AI and machine learning, requires specific profiles, data scientists and machine learning engineers. But today, generative AI is accessible to different profiles. Business analysts, developers, security, marketing. You need to make sure that people has the right skills, that they get the right trainings, and they are taught from the very beginning to build generative AI in a secure way and following the right guidelines. As customers get on building with generative AI, there are multiple factors that need to be considered, and one of them is customization. Building differentiated experiences is not just about the data, though data is extremely important, but it's also about the decisions you take to be agile, flexible, and efficient. You need to be resilient in the long run. At AWS, we prioritize choice, and customers do need choice. Large language models, as an example, they keep on evolving, they become faster, more accurate, cheaper, and you need to be prepared for that. You need to experiment, you need to test, and you need to find the right large language model and the right tool for the right use case. Security at AWS is top of mind. The way we design the services is keeping security as a top priority. Enterprise customers, all type of customers, they are expecting great enterprise-grade applications with generative AI. And you do need to design your foundations to take into consideration. When using services such as Amazon Bedrock, your traffic rests encrypted, addressed, in transit. You will have your traffic within your VPC, so it's secure. It won't leave your own specific landing zone. Foundational models are getting most of the press today, but you need to keep in mind that data and foundational models will only work together if you have the right tools and services to marry them both. This is something you need to take into consideration when designing your applications so that you can build a differentiated experience for your users. As customers are moving from proof of concept to production, there are several topics that need to be taken into consideration. You need to have a clear metrics that you are going to measure. How do I measure the return of investment of my specific use case once I go to production? How am I going to define the ongoing monitoring metrics as I scale up? This is something that needs to be thought from the very beginning. Second one is optimization. I mentioned previously the importance of testing, validating, having the agility of choose the right model, and as models evolve with time, being able to adapt to changes. This is something that is extremely important once applications are live. You need to keep that in mind. And you need to plan and monitor and refine this with time. Customers are scaling should have the right compliance and governance structure in place and make sure that technology is used responsibly. And lastly, generative AI is part of the broader landscape. It's part of the whole ecosystem. You need to keep in mind that infrastructure is what will let you grow. We see that there has been a switch in the last couple of years in terms of which cases companies in the financial services are adopting. Traditionally, we are talking about use cases for document summarization. We were talking about some compliance investigations, relatively simpler use cases. But today, this has changed, and generative AI is solving the more and more complex and challenging problems. As we will see later on, and Pierre Benoit will talk about this investment research platform, and more sophisticated use cases. We've talked about the importance of foundational models, how you need to have the right tools in place to adopt the choice. We've talked about the importance of data to have your differentiated experiences. We will talk more in the next 20, 30 minutes about the governance, monitoring, and cost control experience of Pictet asset management building with AWS services. So I'm handing it over to Pierre Benoit.
Thank you, Guillermo. So good afternoon. My name is Pierre Benoit Querton. I'm at Pictet Asset Management for the last 8 years, and I'm in charge of the AI platform, or actually the governance and the service around. But before going further, probably just a quick recap about who is Pictet, who is Pictet Group, which is an old financial company, which is divided in several services. You would have the asset services, you would have the alternative services, the private banking, and the asset management. And I'm in the last side, in the asset management, which is, around the world. We have offices in Japan, we have offices in America and Europe and so on, and we are more than 1,000 employees. And in this diverse company, in this big company, the last 18 months, there was a huge amount of use case that rapidly emerged. We had people having ID in the marketing side. We had people ID in the financial, in compliance, in all around the company. We had Japan, who wanted to have the ability to translate quickly certain publications that were made in English and to have them not in German, actually, in Japanese. We had a sales assistant that has been created not for the client, but for our sales team that is capable to retrieve information and insight about the product in order to answer our customer needs. We also have a RFP solution in Japan again to faster and provide better answer to RFP sent by our customer. We have the investment team looking and analyzing several analyses from data that we gather from outside world, but also from our own analysts in order to define if it's worth to invest in a given company or not. And last but not least, we also have a citizen dev platform, which is basically what I presented 2 years ago, a development platform for business analysts, for financial analysts, for business people to do Python, and we enable access to LLM to some of those people. Those are just a subset of the use case that we have in-house, and there is more and more coming. And we said, okay, great, lots of ID, but how do we govern that? We cannot just give that to people and say, okay, have fun, enjoy, you need to put a frame around that. And we were thinking, okay, what are the main pillars that we want to put on our governance? And we were thinking, okay, there is always the four main things. There is the industry scrutiny. Well, we are in a financial world quite regulated, I mean other sector as well, healthcare, automotive and other. You have to look at the data protection, you have to look at the cost, and you have definitely to have an oversight of that. Those are the four angles that form the foundations of our governance. Let's look at the financial part, the financial and industry sensitivity. We are regulated, as I was mentioning earlier. We have FINMA, FCA, and so on that providing regulation constraints. We have as well the EU Act that we have to answer. Bank and asset manager must prove accountability all the time and transparency. And it is important for the customer as well, because clients expect a full transparency on how AI-driven decision has been made. The fact that someone asks you, or asks us, basically, how did you took that decision, the disclosure of AI usage is no more an exception. It becomes a norm. This is a standard, and we have to know that. Because it's about our reputation. If we are failing to provide a reason why a certain decision based on AI has been made, then we risk a huge public backlash or lost confidence from our customer. So basically, AI governance is essential, and it's no more a question of a good practice, it's a question of trust and ethic, and it's a norm to put in place. But for doing AI and any other project, you need data, obviously. Which data are you going to use? What's the confidentiality and the sensitivity of the data that you're going to use? Breach of the data, having someone accessing the data that should not, is important. Same thing with LLM. Which data do you want to send there? Are you sure it's secure? The fact is that AWS has running this thing in its own network helps. You have other regulator, GDPR, the fact that you need to have data residency, the fact that you have sector-specific rules. We have more and more banks asking, regulator to look at how it's done. So AI must never compromise confidence, compliance, and auditability. Third, the one that everybody loves, cost. Obviously, AI costs, but you also have to keep in mind that you have hidden costs, your data storage, your network traffic, your compute. Are you sure that you optimize all of that? Cost of AI can raise quickly. We had not long ago on a POC, simple, just small number, we had a POC of a team doing some process on LLM that was around $100 a day. Okay, not a big deal, not a big number. But one day to another, it became $2,000. And we had to look at why. Okay, the figures are small because it was a POC, because we were able to control. But imagine if there were no control. It could spiral quite quickly. So yes, AI promises efficiency, but without a clear and early cost control, your budget can spiral. And the fact that your finance team need to be able to provide forecast is important to ensure that you have a good cost control around that. Finally, you need to have an oversight, ongoing testing on consistency and reliability. You need to have a good monitoring of cost, as I was mentioning earlier. But also you need to be sure what is sent to the LLM, what is prompt or data are sent over there in order to avoid data leak. And we do have within Pictet, pretty much in any company, committees, business risk committee. Are you sure that this data should be used for your project? We have information security, which also analyze the risk. So all those four pillars form our governance. And we said, okay, on the paper, looks great, fantastic. But how do we put that in place now? We have several teams, they have their own AWS account, they can do whatever. And there is no silver bullet. There is no one mechanism to govern multi-account the bedrock services. So you need to put in place governance in every account, It does start to be very cumbersome. And there is no one-size-fits-all, so AWS cannot provide a golden solution. Luckily, they provide all the building blocks in order to do that. So we said, okay, we need to balance external platform limitation with our internal compliance. Are you sure that our compliance team or our business risk team will agree on the things and how to provide that to teams without having them going through, every time they have a use case, all the paperwork, all the workflow? So we said, okay, the natural choice would be centralization. Looks promising. You have common sets of guardrails, security, how do you implement it? You leverage managed services. You have everything into one account. Common set of rules, common set of settings. One central account where all the calls are made. So you have one account where you can check all the costs. And you ensure that the validation of that model is accepted by our business risk committee, by your information security, by your security of everything. It's okay with a regulator and so on. And the key message that we've been able to say is, okay, guys, you have an AI project. Wonderful. Use our platform and you will get automatically compliance because we gather everything. So technically, what we did, we create an AWS account where we provide the Bedrock services, but we also provided a development environment. So our team, or developer, have an access. They access the Bedrock, the SageMaker, create their agent, create their workload, test it. And when it's okay, they've deployed that in their client account. But what we have put in the middle is a bit of the key. It's what we call our Gov API. It is basically a Lambda function that will track every interaction with the LLM and store that to S3, and it's exposed through a gateway API. The idea behind is to ensure that every workload that uses LLM services use that API in order to simply log, clearly with more metadata, obviously, what is being used. So we know that Team A is using Claude for this project. Those are the various prompts that is being used. We have Team B using, I don't know, Titan or other in order to do this kind of project. And the idea is, okay, everybody connect to there, use the central API. We have a central log of every prompt, and then we can do data leak protection. We can audit exactly who's doing what. Well, looks great on the paper. But at some point, the reality happened. Again, this is the story that is back from 15, 18 months ago. We were also early adopter of Bedrock. There were services that were not there. So we had roadblock or issue. The first one, the obvious one, is the resource limitation. When you have two proof of concept of two projects with one central account with Bedrock, it's manageable to some extent. But as soon as you start to have more and more projects, you will have more and more people trying to use the quota. So your quota will just drain quickly. Luckily, we were able to ask for increase of quota, but it's just moving the problem a bit further. And later on, AWS provided the cross-inference profile, which helped us to give a bit of room, which is basically a functionality that allows you to distribute the call to several through several regions, so you can manage your quota. But that's from the technical part. But the fact that me and my team were managing everything, we start to have access everywhere, and it started to be difficult for us to respond to the requests. And therefore, we had to think about the change of architecture. So we then had the, we have a discrepancy here, but anyway, we have the management of the API. We needed to accompany every team to ensure that they're using our Gov API role. So we basically have a gateway where I said, you want to be in production? Okay, we do a code review. We ensure that you're using our Gov API so we can track everything. And that started to be really overloaded. And we said, okay, it works, but it's not efficient. Cost allocation. With one team, it's easy. With two teams, still manageable. when you have 5, 6, 7 teams, and you need to redistribute the cost where everything is centralized, that starts to be difficult. Why? Well, first, because Bedrock calls are not consistent. Different model, different price token. It's difficult to attribute the cost accurately to a given project. And tagging, AWS tagging, is not helping. You cannot tag a call on an LLM. So the key point is allocation is complex and time-consuming without a better native tool. And it starts to be really cumbersome for us and create an overhead. Then we had our turning moment, basically. We had our knowledge base moment, where we had another team asking for a knowledge base, which is basically a service that transforms your data into vector that you can use in RAG. But the point is that this knowledge base need to connect to an S3, where the data is located on another account. For one team, it's easy. For two teams, you have to create a cross account, then a third one, and a sixth one, and start to be really cumbersome, and it creates a blur between the role and responsibility of each other. So we said, okay, stop. We cannot manage that thing as we are. So we went back to a whiteboard, and we said, okay, what do we really want to have? What do we really want to need? We need to empower the team while maintaining strong governance. We need to ensure that each team or each account manages its own Bedrock services and owns its own costs. We needed to ensure that teams are capable of iterating quickly. As Guillermo was mentioning, the idea is to go fast, to be custom. We need to scale. So we decided to go to a decentralized approach with a centralized governance. And it had a lot of benefits. As I mentioned earlier, every AWS account can manage its own quota. So if you don't compete with your neighbor, we have a stronger governance because we can look to every account exactly what is being doing. We can continue to log the call to LLM, but we can track more things. Which model is used? How is it used? How many knowledge base is done to connect to which data? So we have a better control. So we gain a greater efficiency by controlling and spreading the services around and giving a clear shared responsibility model. How we did it and how we are currently doing it, because to be honest with you, we're still on this road. We're currently allowing every team to have their own, or every consumer account to have their own Bedrock services, but we put on top a cross-account role that allow us centrally, we still have our central account, to monitor and gather all the information. So one place to have all the log, all the audit path that I was mentioning earlier. And now we have a clear shared responsibility. Me and my team, we onboard new team. We provide them standard way of implementing the guardrail, one set of guardrail for everyone that we can enforce. We provide the knowledge of our experience from the V1, and the other teams, they can actually enable any services they want. They are fully autonomous on that. We are still doing this. We're also providing a centralized DLP mechanisms. We are also providing lateral MLOps tools, so things that are more transversal to everyone. But our role is no more providing AI, is overseeing AI. So where do we come from that? Well, 15 months ago, we said, okay, let's go central. But it wasn't working. So we had a reality check, and we decided to move to something else. So we decided to have something more federated, so centrally governed, but distributed ability. And we're still on this road. We're still on the green part. And we'll see if it works. So in a nutshell, the success of a governance, a proper governance, is to be able to adapt, because you don't have one solution that fits all. We all different. Okay, we all have the same set of regulation. We all need to control our stuff, but the way we're doing it, even within a sector, even sometimes within a company, is different. So you need to be able to adapt quickly, especially in AI sector where things moving very fast. If you are entering in the world of AI and governance, you think, okay, I will put something stable and I will never move, you won't succeed. You need to be able to adapt quickly because change is inevitable. Centralizing model often hit operational roadblocks. You need to balance between control, which will reduce the risk, but also reduce the velocity of your team to deliver stuff, compared to, okay, open bar, and then it's a lot of risk. So basically, that's the point, just trying to find the right balance. Is it where we're going? Is it the right answer? Is it something that we're going to succeed? Most probably. Are we going to change all the time? Most probably as well, because we need to move non-stop. So probably in a year or two, I'll come back here and see and tell you where the story lies. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Just a few final words. Thank you, everyone, for attending this session. Thanks a lot, Pierre Benoit, for sharing your story and our joint journey. We will be around if you have any questions or if there's any follow-up or something that was not clear and you need some clarifications. We are also reachable. Here are our contact details, so feel free to reach out to us. And, we like feedback, please. You have time, you can use the AWS application to scan the code and give us feedback and tell us what you think. Thank you.